You are living in the most dangerous time in American history.
We won't take a single back step.
Former professional basketball player is now the Republican Party's choice.
Can you imagine Royce White, the U.S. Senate?
White won the endorsement on May 18th with 67% of the vote.
There's nothing that guarantees we win, but I guarantee you if we lose, we will die. Welcome back to another episode of Please Call Me Crazy, brought to you by Free People Radio and powered by our favorite sponsor, TireGet.com. That's TireGet.com. You have to buy tires from somebody, you might as well buy them from us and help fund the movement, help support the movement. We believe in the freedom of movement, and that's exactly what the establishment wants to take from you now. I'm your host, Royce White, here in the belly of the beast, Minneapolis, Minnesota, and this is episode 231. Today is December 30th, Monday, December 30th, year of our Lord 2024. Approaching the end of the year here in the next couple of days. Happy New Year to everybody out there. We do plan on having a New Year's Eve episode as of right now, and we're going to be launching the reaction video format that I've been promising for the last couple of months. So I'm going to be doing a reactions video on Wednesday, and we surely have a lot of content out there to choose from, so it's going to be hard to select down from everything that I've piled up over the last couple of months since I've been talking about that show. But first things first, the last episode I was going to post was taken down by YouTube for copyright infringement, and it was Tucker Carlson's interview with I forgot the Russian guy. Man, I forget his name off the top of my head, but it was a damn good interview, and it was very insightful to get the Russian perspective on the current conflict there between the West and Russia and Ukraine. And the episode was taken down, but I would again encourage anybody out there to go and spend about an hour and a half, I think it was, watching that interview by Tucker Carlson. And if, Tucker, we apologize. We didn't mean to try and, steal your content or anything like that. We really just wanted to repost it to show whatever audience that we get on the various platforms, the conversation that took place, which is an interesting thing, to say the least. I do understand how important it is and how much money goes into this business, creating content. That's why we have a sponsor, TireGet. And again, going into the new year, I'm sure a lot of people need tires. Make sure you visit TireGet.com and use promo code FPR. Promo code FPR for Free People Radio will get you, I think, 5% off your total purchase of tires, which everybody has to get tires. And I'm not saying run and get tires if you don't need them, but when the time comes that you do need to replace your tires, I hope that you'll buy with us. So all of this stuff is a business, but at the end of the day, when you're on the brink of nuclear war and the American people have been misinformed about the history, the very important history of how we got to where we are today, I think business comes second. And that's going to be a pretty good segue into what I want to talk about today. Firefights broken out in the MAGA movement, which I predicted on day one after the election, because you could see it coming a mile and a half off, because the fundamental still is not tight. And we rode the momentum of Donald Trump's transformative popularity and celebrity, and the miracle of him surviving an assassination attempt, and him being on the right side of most issues for the last, decade or so since he's entered the political arena, and even well before that. So, we rode Donald Trump's wave into this landslide electoral victory that we had earlier in November. However, the engine that that has driven this victory and the MAGA movement and the America First movement and the America First ethos, it traces his lineage back, many, many decades. The Tea Party, the Ron Pauls of the world, the more recent Breitbart and populist movement. And, there's so many different people who have contributed over the years. And I want to give, them their credit and my thanks and appreciation, because it takes every little person with every little action and sacrifice for us to end up where we end up. And now we got a fight brewing, and it's a fight that we have to have. We can't shy away from it. We want the fight. We should want to have the fight. All these people who say, "Oh, well, we're getting divided, and this is a division tactic." No. There are issues, fundamental issues, core beliefs, core ideological viewpoints, sort of bedrock issues that we have to sort out, or we're not really a movement. We are the same as the sort of moral relative, opportunistic, the end justifies the means, left, far left, progressive, and everybody else in between, sort of pseudo-political activism. And we don't want to be that. We want to be a genuine political movement that's based on real ideas and principles and morals and values and, philosophy that can be, I don't want to say synthesized, but galvanized into something long-term. And in fact, we don't just want that. We have to have that. If we don't have that now, this country will fall. And make no mistake about it, Donald Trump won. He was victorious. The MAGA movement gets to enjoy a victory. But this war is far, far from over. I mean, it really is just beginning. And that's hard to sort of wrap our minds around sometimes because of how much we've had to overcome in order to get here. But I guarantee you, this war has just begun. And there is no better example than the fight that's breaking out right now between none other than my friend, mentor, and somebody I consider to be family, to be honest, the great Stephen K. Bannon and Elon Musk and the Silicon Valley Tech Bros crew. And it's about the HB1 visas. But it's not really about the visas. I mean, it is about the visas, don't get me wrong. And that is a huge issue. And it's an issue that we cannot waver on one single bit. And I'm going to talk about that over the course of the show. And we're going to make this one short and sweet because I know you guys probably have even more holiday plans that you gotta get ready for here in the next couple of days and evenings. But it's about the visas. I mean, I'm not sugarcoating or trying to skim over the visa issue. The visa issue is the issue, but it's more about the mentality. It's about the philosophy. It's about the worldview and the attitude towards what I've continued to say is the most important word, maybe term or philosophical idea introduced into Western society or human civilization throughout history. It just can't be overstated. The idea of citizenship, how valuable the idea of citizenship and how important the value of our citizenship has to be now. And the visa program has, undoubtedly devalued American citizenship. There's not even that's not even an argument. I don't even think Elon and whoever else is on his side of this debate would argue that the net result of the visa program has devalued American citizenship. I don't really think that. I mean, please, if there's an argument to be made, I mean, I hear their arguments. Their arguments is exactly what the globalists always say. We have to have this or else. We have to have this, this immigrant workforce, or else we're behind the curve. We're not going to be able to compete. We need these highly skilled workers for the tech industry. Just give me a break. Give me a break. It's first of all, it's a lie. It's a lie. The visa program is for low-cost labor. It's a low-cost labor workaround. A lot of people know it. A lot of people have said it. It's on the record. It's well documented. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This isn't the far right of the MAGA movement being hardliners on an issue that's, kind of trivial. No, no, no. No, this is a very serious issue with very serious consequences. The consequences we have seen, we have reaped the consequences already. The consequences are, just like much of our manufacturing base, a great deal of our labor pool, even in some of these, newer fourth industrial type industries, have been outsourced, or let's say they've been insourced. I mean, we've insourced workers to fill these positions even here in America, and it's just got to stop. It's got to come to an end. And that is the real beating heart of what you would call the conservative ideology versus the progressive ideology. And that's what we have to get down to today. And I don't want to spend a lot of time with the backdrop. The backdrop. The backdrop is Elon Musk took the side that the visa program is something that he stands by, and he's willing to fight, until the cows come home. And he'll die on this hill. He's going to unleash a war the likes of which we could not possibly comprehend. Sorry to tell you, Elon. You carry a big stick, but it's not the biggest stick there is, okay? The biggest stick that there is the one that we just beat back. And you played a role, and we all give you your credit, and we all give you your respect and our appreciation for the role that you've played. And X has been, played a major role in the things that have gone on over the last year or so since you've acquired it. And that's all well and good. But we face bigger enemies. I mean, let's be honest here, and at a level in here, and I might catch a lot of flack for saying this, but at a level in here, it's hard to tell who your enemies and who your friends really are. I mean, you can play a sort of good guy, bad guy, whack-a-mole like it's an arcade game when everybody's on the surface. But the deeper and deeper you get into things, the more rightful question there is about who's really on whose side. And, when a society gets as big as ours and as complex as ours and as technological as ours and as secretive as ours, that distrust is bound to happen. It's inevitable. So when we talk about the deep state, and I said this 2 years back on Jason Whitlock, you can go and find the clip, and I stand by it today. If we talk about the deep state or a shadow government, or let's say a government that's above the government, or what we call globalism or the globalist empire or the new world order, we can say with some certainty that the new world order agenda is firmly anchored around technology. So after the election, when Donald Trump was announced the winner, and my very next podcast, I said the next hurdle, the next problem over the horizon is technology. I meant technology, and I meant humanity's impulse and sort of propensity towards blind faith in technological advancement. But we could get specific. I meant Elon Musk, honestly. And, if Steve will tell you, ask Bannon. He'll tell you that, this is days after we win, technology. And when I say technology, I really mean Elon. Now, do I mean that Elon Musk is a bad person who can't be trusted or doesn't have the possibility of redemption? Of course not. We all do. And I'm nobody to judge. Anybody who wants to come into righteousness has the opportunity to do so. And they have the opportunity to do so every single moment of every single day that they continue to draw breath. And that's what makes the Christian tradition so beautiful. You're not in a fixed position. All you have to do is ask for forgiveness, repent, and change your ways. That's just, that's the beauty in it. But you do have to do that. And I said 2 years back on Whitlock, it doesn't get much spookier than Elon Musk. Let's just be clear. Like if we're going to do a short look at me, for example, and you'll see, there's always a bunch of back and forth online in these individual echo chambers and silos of different Twitter conversations and communities, X, Instagram, Facebook, you pick one. There's all these different conversations like Alex Jones is a plan, or Stephen K. Bannon is a Zionist, or Royce White is a shill for the, I mean, and fine. I mean, if you guys want to do that, I'm sure it really entertains you in your little message boards. It's goofy, to be honest. It's goofy. It's really meaningless, but eh, okay, fine. You can play that game. But if we were really going to write out a short list of who's spooky and who's not, it doesn't get more spooky than Elon Musk, because Elon Musk has, let's say, integrated himself into what would appear the inevitable future and sort of collective decision of our entire species. And that is, all technological advancement is a net positive, with or without the necessary wisdom to accompany it. And Elon Musk, he's on track to be the richest man in the world by a landslide, or the first trillionaire that we've had in modern history. And his position in that is not one that's kind of tacit or tertiary. It's direct. It's like, here are the electric vehicles, here are the chips, here are the robots, the artificial intelligence, and here's the space travel. I mean, he's kind of integrated into the whole fourth industrial revolution. Spooky. I mean, with two governments as mortally opposed to one another as we are with the CCP, or at least a real America First government, like one that is now going to be led by Donald J. Trump or anybody else who's MAGA, and two nations who are as diametrically opposed ideologically, spiritually, sort of fundamentally in terms of rights and the construction of government. Two governments that are as fundamentally opposed, diametrically opposed as us and the Chinese Communist Party. What kind of person gets access to both of those governments and those contracts? That's a question you have to ask yourself. And that's a question that Elon Musk has to answer. And at some level, being America First and being MAGA isn't just a slogan. It's not, and I said this on X, I'll say it again. This movement is not a slogan that can be slapped and wrapped on the next agenda, and status quo. No, what makes the MAGA movement special, what makes the MAGA movement unique, is it's sort of uniparty and status quo proof. Now, the onus is still on us. The referendum is still on us in the movement. People like myself, voices like me and Steve and Jack Posobiec and the many others, and Laura Loomer and everybody else out there. And even Elon and Vivek and Donald Trump himself and Don Jr. and everybody who's kind of, in this ecosystem. The onus is still on us to ensure that the MAGA movement remains a status quo proof movement, unless we're able to change the status quo into something that's no longer corrupt, right? I should say we are we are trying to make sure that the movement remains corrupt status quo proof, because up until now we've had a corrupt status quo. But we have to actually do that. Part of doing that is going to be the hard choice of calling the balls and strikes when it comes to fundamental issues, fundamental attitude, mentality, worldview. And in the days after Donald Trump won, I said, and I'll continue to say, we can't be an empire anymore. We can't be an empire. We can't afford it. We can't man it. We can't defend it. We can't fight for it. We can't, we can't do it. It's not feasible. We don't want to do it. I mean, when you pull back far enough and you get out of this sort of post-World War II Pax Americana, circle jerk that we've constructed and played out, global political theater. Once you pull back far enough and see it for what it is, you realize that this entire U.S. dollar empire thing that we had going was not a net positive for the American people in the first place. Sure, it provided some convenience and it provided some industrial boom, and it provided the perception of global connectivity and sort of unilateral international cooperation and whatnot. Yeah, it provided the perception, but underneath what happened was the corrosion of our American culture. the American society, the black communities first and foremost. I mean, nobody has seen more decline under the post-World War II democratic liberal order than the black community. No, nobody. I mean, if you think, and don't get me wrong, I don't mean to pick out black people and make it racial. I'm just saying that if you look at how black people lived in the 1940s, in 1930s going into the 1940s, 1940s, 50s, and then you look at when World War II or this post-World War II Democrat liberal order really got rolling, which was on the back, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, it was on the back of two narratives. We have to become a globalist political hegemon, or Adolf Hitler's going to rise again. And we have to become a global political hegemon, or let's say a domestic, national political, global political hegemon, or else, the KKK will return and segregation will ensue and black people will be slaves again. These were the two narratives that were used to concretize the World War II structure that exists today. And globalism is the beating heart of it. And it has not been a positive for the American people. It just hasn't. And in order to understand that, you have to start to ask fundamental questions about sort of existential, existential issues like technology itself. It's like we can talk about, well, how are the technology companies going to get the highly skilled workers? Let's not even go there. Let's ask the fundamental question about technology itself. Where do we want to go with technology? Where are we headed? Elon Musk says by 2040, which is only 15 years, and I mean, I'm 33 years old, and the last 15 years didn't go by quick, but it didn't go by slow either. 15 years from now, I'll be 48, God willing. By 2040, Elon Musk predicted that there will be more robots than human beings. Now, when I hear things like that, it trips all my wires. I mean, this is a sort of dystopian, technocratic, transhumanist oligarchy setup that will far and away eclipse the tyranny, the sort of international globalist aristocratic Ponzi scheme that we just clawed our way out of for a moment in this last election cycle. This technocratic dystopia that's on the horizon will make that look like a day in the park, a picnic, a day at a sunny Central Park picnic is what it'll look like. So we really have to ask ourselves, where are we going? What is the goal? What is enough? What do we need? What is enough? So when you get down to the root issue, which people often don't want to do because the lines become so clear, but that is what we need to do. When you get down to those root issues, it becomes real clear who everybody is. We don't have to dance around it. I mean, in Elon Musk, God bless you. You can come to the podium and say all this stuff you want about hope and wonder and giving people something to look forward to and doing things that are cool. And everybody loves a good invention, and everybody loves a good piece of architecture, and everybody loves to be able to sit down and put something on a piece of paper and bring it to life. I spent a lot of time making music, and that's mostly what the process is, to go from silence, absolute zero, nothing, and then the crescendo and the sort of rhythm, the pocket that you find with the completed piece of music, and then eventually, if that can produce into an actual music video or live performance, or even further into a motion picture and so on and so forth, it's a beautiful thing, and it's very self-gratifying for us as human beings. That's the power of creation. We love that. I mean, we kind of crave it. And if you ever had a taste of it, it's very easy to get addicted to. I get it. I get it, Elon. But we got to ask ourselves some questions here about what the real devil is in the detail. And so far as I see it, and this goes all the way back to the heresies of the West, and this sort of fundamental heresy that still plagues our society today in our thinking, all the way back to the science. And I've said it before, it's funny how these things just come back around. I told you so just doesn't quite say it. It just doesn't. There are four heresies of the West. The first was the scientific method. The second was democracy. The third was computer technology. And the fourth and final will be artificial intelligence. And all of them sought to do the same exact thing. They want to bridge the gap between man and God. They want to bridge the gap of creation, that unknown factor, that whatever that unknown factor is, that God particle that so many in the scientific world are seeking and talking about. And the whole scientific method, while it claims and purports to make people's lives better, and in some ways it has. I mean, there are a lot of people who would get a bacterial pneumonia and they're out of here. And now we got antibiotics, and bacterial pneumonia is pretty easy to treat in most cases. And so it has helped people in some ways, but the overall net direction of technology is to replace people. And so in my neighborhood, that's what you call the overlay for the underlay, right? It's like, yeah, we're going to give you antibiotics. We're going to make you live a little longer. We're going to be able to put a stent in your heart if you have a massive coronary heart attack or whatever the case may be, or maybe your eye, lose sight in your eye for whatever reason, diabetes or whatever, and maybe we'll even be able to put a chip in your brain and turn your eye back on. All of that is just what you would call short-term fool's gold. And it's hard to see it as fool's gold because it saved a person's life. It changed a person's life. It did all of this. It's capable of all of these things that for us as human beings, we view as a necessity. And in some cases, you can make an argument it's a necessity, like the way we're able to produce food so people don't go hungry. I get it. But at the highest level of international and in our case, national leadership, we have to call the balls and strikes on what is prudent, what is pragmatic, and what can we actually do without undermining, undermining our very existence. And that's what it is. I mean, the net result of technology where we're headed right now is machines will replace us. I mean, they're already talking about it. It's not just Elon Musk. I mean, this is when you get away from the Joyanne Reeds and the Joy Beharts and the Stephen Colberts and all the other jerk offs that they put on primetime television, and they funnel all of the audience towards to just keep them brainwashed on this weird kabuki loop. When you get away from that stuff and you get down into the white papers and you start to actually track, the scientific agenda, you see that this isn't a conspiracy, and this isn't even just Elon Musk. This is about the impulse of technology writ large all around the world, and it is not shy in its effort to displace or replace human beings completely. And what's even more scary about it is, once we cross a certain threshold, it's not like we're going to have a choice. Once enough dominoes fall, they will all fall. And what will happen, for example, when robots can be mass produced and they are efficient and they are effective, and they do become, that helpmate around the house, or they're able to do the manufacturing work that supposedly nobody wants to do, and maybe not enough people do want to do, and maybe we need a renaissance of hard work, and I'm all for that. But once robots become better soldiers or more reliable soldiers, once robots become more reliable doctors and medical practitioners, once robots become more efficient at almost everything, more so than humans, what need will there be for human beings? And I said this on the Royce White on REV this past weekend, last Saturday. One of the constraints of genocide throughout the course of human history is any power-hungry leader, maniacal as they may be, is still bound by the necessity of having some human beings in order to maintain their power. As soon as you remove the constraint, the necessity for human beings in order for leaders, world leaders, tyrannical even, as soon as you remove the constraints of them to need physical human beings in order to maintain their own power, do you understand how bad the genocide is going to get? I mean, again, one of the natural buffers and sort of boundaries and constraints on warfare, and even in the worst case scenario, all out genocide, one of the natural constraints is we can't kill everybody. We need some people. I mean, we like to think that we only dropped 2 atomic bombs there in Japan because we're so benevolent, right? Or that Hitler stopped with the Jews and the Romanis and the Gypsies and the Catholics because he had some type of conscience. Or Stalin only killed 10 to 12 million Christians because he had a hard on for the Christians, and yeah, and all of that can be true, but really, these people were constrained by the knowledge. If I kill everybody, if I kill too many people, then what good is the power? What good is the position of being king if there are no subjects? If there are no serfs? If there are no indentured servants? Well, we're coming to an event horizon here where you're not going to need subjects, serfs, or indentured servants at all. The robots will do what you want. The robots are going to do the lion's share of the work. And even more dangerous is at the time where we reach that event horizons, it's completely plausible that we will be able to extend our own life, our own life for much longer than we. So now you have people who are living longer with the need with a significantly decreased need for other living human beings and robots that'll do whatever. You see where we're going? And if anybody tells you that what I'm saying is some technological pipe dream or fantasy, those are the people that you need to distrust. Right there. That's the litmus test. Anybody who tells you that what I'm saying right now is not categorically true and on the way, those are the people that you should dismiss on face value as being lying bastards because they're lying. We're right there on the brink of it. We're right there on the brink of it. Don't you see it? The drones and the black the classified projects and the biological warfare and the robotics. I mean the AI. It's all right there. I mean, we are a key turn away from this being all out 1984 George Orwellian dystopia type of technocratic world we live in, culture we live in, a society that we live in. We're right there. I mean, we are this close. Now, and again, the same argument they use for the visas is the same argument they're going to use for artificial intelligence. They're going to say, if we don't use these highly skilled workers from these other countries in the tech industry, then America's tech industry isn't going to be able to compete with China's tech industry or India's tech industry or, Japan's tech industry or Israel's tech industry or whoever. That's going to be the go-to scapegoat to justify a blind march into the technocratic future. That's what we're looking at. And number one, I call bullshit. I call bullshit on 2 fronts. One, I don't think we need the highly skilled anything from any other country in order to compete with anybody. But number 2, I'm not so sure that should be the baseline and sort of bedrock motivation of where we're trying to take this country right now. Should we be strong enough to defend our borders? Yes. Is some of that going to require artificial intelligence in some capacity? I would assume so. Now, how much of that and how many fail-safes we can put in place is going to be what the onus is on our leaders, on Donald Trump and anybody else that comes after him. We're going to have to really figure out, okay, if it is the case that artificial intelligence is going to rise and become the primary mode and means of national defense and war, then we are going to have to play the game. But how can we play the game in a way that ensures our own safety in it. And that's going to be a razor thin line. That's going to be a razor thin edge that we have to walk. I mean, razor thin. And it's going to require the smartest of people. And to be quite honest, I don't think we can trust anybody from any other nation with that type of, with that. Just because, we have this sort of warped sense that everybody wants to be a part of this American-led and dominated global culture. But what we are finding out here in short order is there are other nations out there that do have a sense of national honor, national pride, national identity. Russia, China for sure, India, Israel, pick one. There's a bunch of them out there. Some countries there in the Middle East. There are a lot of countries out there that still regard their culture, their ethnicity, their history, their geographical location and borders. They regard those things as important. And they will fight for them. And we're going to trust the people from their country to oversee something as important as our national security? I mean, this is what we're getting down to now. What are we really saying? When we say the tech industry, when we say we need highly skilled workers from India, and don't get me wrong, I think Modi's a nationalist. I respect that Modi's trying to, stand India up in a way that can be competitive, and I get it. But are we going to trust, that some work, and I'm not picking on India. It just happens that in the tech industry, there's a lot of outsourcing to India, but let's say China. Are we going to trust Chinese nationals to roll in here to whatever R&D department at the university and help us with nanotechnology, artificial intelligent nanotech? Really? That's going to be used to power the drone system for our air missile defense? I mean, are you kidding me? What kind of naivety? Only people who really have no true sense of how bad things can get when the war breaks out would set us up this way. Or, in the darker sense, maybe it's being set up that way on purpose. Maybe these people want a war, an all-out, guns blazing, can't tell your friends from your enemies. The only thing that you can see in the eventual is that the real government, the government behind the government, the global government rolls into your neighborhoods with the tanks and the soldiers and the guns, and they tell you, you people are out of control, and we are now here to take over because you can't be trusted with your own freedom. And the freedoms that we said we were here to protect, we now got to take from you because you people are a danger to yourselves. Possibility. That's the Orwell scenario. That's the 1984 Orwell technocratic scenario is, with AI and robotics and these elitist, technocrats, we know better than you do. We understand things a little bit better than you do. You can't be trusted with your own existence. You can't be trusted with freedom. Freedom is a luxury you no longer can be afforded in order to preserve the peace, in order to, preserve whatever it is that they're going to slap on at the time. It could be food. It could be health. It could be, whatever. Resource, whatever. There's at that point, it's not going to matter because, at that point, you'll have to decide, are we going to rebel or are we going to bend the knee? And even in the worst case scenario, and I've said this before, it happens over more generations sometimes, and there are a lot of people that have to suffer in the meantime. But the human spirit longs for freedom and truth. It's one of those unknown mechanisms that God gifted the human species to ensure that we would not fall under any long-term rule of any false gods. That the human spirit, the human intuition, it longs for freedom and it longs for the truth. So even if we fell under the Orwell, eventually people will rise up. Now, the better the technology, the more sophisticated the weapons, the more sophisticated the governance and the sort of tyranny, the longer it would take for people to rise up. And there will be a lot of suffering during that period. And that's what we should be worried about now. That's what we have to stay vigilant about now. We can do ourselves a great favor by not allowing our leaders to walk us into a gauntlet or a shooting gallery of technocratic tyranny and dystopia. And this visa issue, and the reason I'm bringing it up is this visa issue is the greatest example where, these oligarchs, these leaders of the tech industry are going to tell us that this is necessary. This is what we need. This has to happen. If not, we can't compete. It's like, they know better than we do, right? It's just classic. It's classic. Like, you don't understand how it works. Yeah, we do. We know how it works. You're going to India to get cheap labor in the tech industry, but it's all kinds of industries. It's a workaround. It's a way for you to be for mass migration under the auspice or the guise of it being legal through the workforce instead of just letting them run across the border. It's a workaround. And we're not that stupid. Sorry, Elon and anybody else. We're not that dumb. Maybe we don't all know how to engineer a rocket and put a rocket on Mars. Some of us don't want to go to Mars. Hell, we got regular old 737s crashing right now on the runway, killing 180 people still. I don't want to get strapped in a rocket with a bunch of jerk-offs who I don't know and travel for 4 years to Mars. That's me personally. Now, maybe you could say, hey, Royce isn't fit to lead the human civilization because he's not willing to take these kinds of risks. But I say back to any of these people, tell me the roadmap, tell me the pathway to ensure that artificial intelligence doesn't become the demise of the human species that we all claim will eventually come to pass if we don't go to Mars. See, that's their equation is if we don't have these highly skilled workers on the visas, then we can't build the artificial intelligence and compete with China. And if we can't do that, then we can't find a way to become an interstellar or intergalactic species. And if we can't do that, then the asteroid is going to hit us and the entire planet won't be livable. And okay, fine. But who's to say that you imbeciles who are so fucking arrogant as to think that your own psychological neurosis isn't getting mapped onto the artificial intelligence you're creating, who's to say that your inventions, your artificial intelligence, your robotic, agendas and industrial revolutions, and who's to say that isn't going to be the catalyst to the annihilation of the human species? Who's to say? We don't really know right now. That's the whole point. The point is we don't know, and it seems that we should all just assume that the trajectory and the path of technology as it currently is good. That's what we're to assume. That's what you're telling me. That's what you're telling Elon. You're telling me, trust me, Royce, trust me. I'm smarter than you. We need to continue displacing American workers because you blacks and Hispanics aren't smart enough to be engineers, okay? So we need to keep displacing you through this visa program so we can put people on Mars. Fuck you and fuck Mars, okay? The first thing that's going to happen, that needs to happen, and by God, over our dead bodies, Steve already told you, and I'm backing him 100,000%, what needs to happen first is that American citizenship and American citizens are going to be put first. So if you want to go to Mars so fucking bad, what you better be thinking about is how can we expedite the process to ensure that American citizens are educated well enough to fill these billets. That, my friend, is the only answer here. And there's no negotiation. There's no fucking workaround. There's no, all there is the people who said they were America First and MAGA are going to show us exactly how their ass really looks. And we're going to take note and we're going to take names, and we're going to take action. That's it. That's it. There's no workaround. We're done with the fucking workarounds. We're done with the placating. We're done with the, now you if anybody out there who thinks that the MAGA movement is going to become the new face of this uniparty status quo political theater bullshit has a serious rude awakening coming. You might just throw all your cards on the table, and day one, you might as well start coming to round us up the same way the Democrats were going to do, because that's what you're going to have to do. That is what you just start coming to round us up the same way they plan to do, because you got the same technocratic pipe dream as they did, with a little bit of a different flavor. Theirs was, if you don't take our poisonous jabs, then we're going to come lock you up. And you guys is if you're too stupid to realize how important visas are so we can go to Mars, then, you're what? What was the word that they used? You're contemptible, racist, needed to be weeded out, root and stem. Me? I need to be weeded out of the MAGA movement, root and stem. Me? Have you lost your fucking mind? Or have you lost your fucking mind, sir? No, sir. Actually, it was the deplorables, the working class, those who didn't graduate from some Ivy League school or didn't, go through some advanced engineering program. It was those everyday folks who saw the blatant lie of the establishment that had preyed on them for so long that ensured that this country has a dying chance. Nope, it was people like me, sir. And again, I don't have anything against these, and I find myself in a weird position because it's always like I'm defending the average guy, the everyman. And then I get these messages and people are like, you don't talk like an everyman. You talk highbrow. You're very educated, obviously very intelligent. And yeah, I mean, sure. Okay. I've read a few things. I've been a few places. I've met a few good people. I've had a few great mentors, and Stephen K. Bannon is one of them. So yeah, I'm not the average everyman, but in here I am, and out there I am. Where I came from I am, and what I've lived through I am. So I'm not a part of this elite club. These elite special dinners that people have where they have, they lay out these, they don't invite me. They wouldn't invite me. You know why? Because I wouldn't sit there and let them talk this very fucking bullshit without interjecting, because I don't know my place. And see, the one common thing that they all have, the one common sort of thread that kind of travels the entire aristocratic elitist kind of echelon of our society is they all think that there are these universal places that people have. Right? I mean, that's kind of that social Darwinism thing that they got going again. And I love when Steve said on social media, he said, we didn't bend the knee to the British Empire. We didn't bend the knee to the Bolsheviks. We didn't bend the knee to the Nazis. We're not going to start by bending the knee to South Africa. I love that, right? And it's what I've been saying for 2 fucking years now is the British Empire's business model was in great part the informing ideology, the informing philosophy, the informing academic tradition that has undergirded the entirety of modern civilization, especially in the West. And there are a lot of these people who fancy themselves European or British, or they you just call them globalists, or they are beyond the identity of their nation. They are above the nation state. They supersede, they transcend country. They have no country. They're metropolitan, right? I'm sorry, they're not metropolitan. They're cosmopolitan. They're cosmopolitan. They have no country. Their country is their own elitist intelligence and accreditation. And see, those people, they just don't like me. Right? They usually are pompous and arrogant and uppity, and they think they're much fucking smarter than they are. And a lot of these tech guys, I'm just going to be quite honest, what has been the net result of technology up until this point, especially the latest chapter of tech. Let's just say it, social media. Since the advent of social media, what has been the net result since the advent of social media? People have lost their fucking minds at a rate that has never been seen before in the history of human civilization. People have completely lost their fucking minds. That has been the net result of a blind faith in technological advancement under the guise of global connectivity with no fucking wisdom and no premium or priority on education or philosophical first principles. That is a fact. So, I mean, they can all sort of celebrate their achievements and their numbers and their how many subscribers there are now on X and Facebook and Instagram is and TikTok and the main means of communication is now, and all of that is very true. It can be true. That doesn't mean that it's good. It damn sure doesn't mean that it's righteous. And it damn sure doesn't mean that it's healthy. Yeah, no. We are in a very dark place. The silver lining, the slim sliver of hope is that enough people who have the sort of grit and will and determination and sense of sacred honor and righteousness to stand in these vast mediums to speak the uncomfortable and inconvenient truth could actually have some sway on any sizable majority. That is the small sliver of hope in the abyss that has become technology. And that, my friends, is that, as they say. That, my friends, is that. That's what we're facing right now. That's what this whole fight ain't. It's about the visas, and and again, it's about the visas, but really, it's about a mentality of the tech industry and some of these people who come from the tech industry and even the Elon Musk of the world, who again we give all due respect to for what you contributed. We appreciate it. You helped save the country just as much as the next person. We're not taking anything away from you. But we didn't save the country just to give it back to our own degenerate technological impulses. And we're not doing that. Sorry, we just can't. We just can't do it. Okay, we just can't do it. And I'm as Christian as the next guy. But and I said this the other day on X. It's like, when I look back on my recent campaign with Amy and my next campaign with Tina, it's probably going to be the exact same thing. They actually make you out to be a criminal. I mean, when I look back at what they said about me and how they tried to attack me, you would think I was actually a criminal. So we go down to the BCA, the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension here in the state of Minnesota, and my record is completely clean. Not a single thing on it. There was one thing on it, something that was thrown out, as a misunderstanding, but it wasn't a felony. It was, a little petty thing. It was quashed, thrown out. But I had one thing on my entire, and the way that they talked about me was like I'm a criminal. And even worse than that, and this is actually coincidentally tied right into the ethos of what we're talking about now. They made it seem like having children is the greatest crime against humanity. Imagine. I mean, I don't think anything says more how far we've fallen when a man stands up to run for political office and represent the people. And their number one criticism against him is that he has children. It's like the greatest crime against humanity is to have a child, whether it be in wedlock, out of wedlock. Look, there are no bastard children. I don't even want to hear that shit anymore. That was the predicate to this, that when we look back on it, and there are more robots than humans, and birth rates are collapsing, we will realize that some of the societal norms that we created were the predicate for our own demise. Like, that kid's a bastard child. There are no bastard children. There are just children. There are just children, and if they're fortunate enough to be healthy, if they're fortunate enough to be healthy and contribute to society, that's a plus, especially where we seem to be headed now, where there'll be more robots than there are actual human beings. Give me the bastard children. I'll take them. See, there's in Catholicism, in the Christian tradition in Catholicism, Thomas Aquinas talks about sin contrary to nature and sin according to nature. And those are different degrees of sin. There is sin according to nature, and there is sin contrary to nature. And this sin that we have brewing, this sort of socialized, technology-driven sin that we have brewing now with the fourth industrial revolution and robotics and automation and AI and whatever else, those are going to be sins contrary to nature. The bastard children are sins according to nature. Too deep for today's podcast? Too deep for a Monday? This is what we do on Mondays. We do deep dives. It's Deep Dive Monday. And what I'm saying is, give me all the bastard children. Give me all the bastard American-born children, all the bastard American citizens, before you give me the highly skilled, cheap labor from another country as a stopgap until you get enough robots to supplant all of them. We see the game. The fundamental of the America First movement is we understand the dangers of technology. We understand the dangers of pay-to-play politics that have ransacked this country like the final days of the Roman Empire. We understand the fundamental. The fundamental is American citizenship means something. The idea of citizenship itself means something. It's invaluable. It has been devalued intentionally, systematically, by people who do not deserve to lead or represent us. That is why I'm running for United States Senate again. And I will continue to run until the American people realize that what I'm saying is not debatable. It's a fact. And as soon as you all out there in the audience and everywhere else understand that what I'm saying is not an opinion, what Steve Bannon is saying is not an opinion. What we are articulating is something that has been proven. The value of your citizenship has been systematically and intentionally it's been destroyed. Destroyed. It hangs upon the edge of a blade. And we have a chance to change that. We have a chance to turn that around. We have a chance to do something different, but we have to do something different. It has to be different. It has to change. It has to. And our mentality has to change. And to be honest, part of it isn't even Elon Musk's fault. The populist movement. And here's the problem with populism. You know, Vox Populi, Vox Dei, the voice of the people is the voice of God. But it still has to be righteous. And the problem with it is, and why what Steve is doing is so important, and why everybody else who's taking this stand right now before we even get to the inauguration, the reason why it's so important is the people have to understand that that convenience will be the death of freedom. The people have to understand that where technology is taking us is a dangerous place, and so that they can then have a good enough information and a good enough vantage to be able to properly judge their leaders. Judge their leaders on their merit and their effectiveness. You know, how far are we willing to go for this? How far? This isn't good enough. This ain't good enough. You know, we need a 16 and a 20 and a 25, and there'll be an iPhone 30. And before you know it, you know, there'll be some transformer that turns into a phone, and, you know, it just unfolds itself and materializes real organic skin that's, real to the touch, has tactile sensation and everything. And it'll just, give you a back massage. And I say that to be polite, right? I hope when I say that everybody knows what I really mean. Eventually your phone will just transform into some type of strange, humanoid robot that'll just give you a back rub. And when that happens, I mean, let's just take it a step further, and I'll leave this for Friday. Man, we talk about this with Professor Penn. When we have Professor Penn, we got to do a Hebrews this week. And I meant to tell you all that the Hebrews this week is going to be the last Hebrews that we do on the Please Call Me Crazy channel. And then we're going to be moving the Hebrews to its own YouTube channel. So we'll make sure that you get the link and information for all of that, as well as make sure to go to Free People Radio on YouTube, because we're going to start reposting all of the episodes and content on one central hub at Free People Radio. So all of that's to come in the future. But I want to leave you with this. At the point where the humanoid robots can sufficiently satisfy the vice that we have not yet mastered, the impulse, the impulsive vice that we haven't mastered at the moment where the robots, what's going to happen to love? What's going to happen to love? And I mean love like in a romance, like between a man and a woman. And you could argue that since Genesis, the love that was produced and given to Adam and Eve by God, but then the love and the romance and the intimacy that Adam and Eve share, that carried on all the way down to the rest of us, that the all of our ideas about a human civilization, a shared goal, common goal, living in a community, all of it stems back to the romance and the love between two people, between a man and a woman. And that's maybe, that may be the most profound point that, I just stumbled across during this entire hour, is the anti-human threat has implications well beyond what we are even willing to consider. I mean, it's the workers, yeah. Yeah, displacing the workers is going to be first. But imagine, I mean, God bless you all out there, all you radical feminists. But understand that the rise of feminism in this country, and the rise of feminism as a political philosophy and a powerful political movement all around the world, it has been greatly achieved because of women's role in a very natural and biological process of sexual pursuit, and men that are very vulnerable to the sort of biological impulse and needs of intimacy and love, or the desire of, from women. Imagine when women, and I'm just asking you women out there, imagine when your sexual reproductive organs are no longer a vessel by which you can influence the decisions of men. Imagine when men have a robot that gives them just as much stimulation and intimacy and sexual pleasure as any organic or natural-born woman could. What's going to happen to the feminist movement? What's going to happen to women's rights when one of these little strange, tyrannical, beta male cucks gets enough money and enough power to get a big enough robot community that, and they're going to be killing women left and right? In fact, the repressed, resent and harbored anger that they have towards women is gonna manifest itself 1,000-fold. Okay, is that too dark for Monday to go into the new year? Okay, fine. Maybe it is. Well, maybe we should let people who really think about things in those terms, at that length, in those distance, at that depth, lead us. Not the Amy Klobuchars who are going to go to your next cookie bake and brag about making the American eagle the national bird. That's the legislation Amy Klobuchar was bragging about on X a couple weeks back. I saw she's a part of a bill to make the bald eagle, not the American eagle, I'm sorry, the bald eagle the national bird. I mean, come on, seriously? And at that level, if we're willing to let those type of people represent us, then we are bound. We are doomed, not bound to. We are doomed to, the sort of fate of, of our own technological impulses, our own technological, indiscipline. We got to get clear about this right here, right now. The America first means America fucking first. American citizenship and American citizens. The visa program is a scam. It needs to be completely dismantled, okay? The education system needs a complete overhaul, and I'm not so sure if IQ, I mean, listen, remember now, people made the argument for many decades that IQ is not is natural. That IQ doesn't really have as much to do with the nurturing or the education as people would like to think. So that means out there, potentially, theoretically, it's plausible that there are people out there that are working jobs that they have no business working because they have no real chance to access the engineering professions or creative avenues that they maybe could excel in, who are American citizens, who have an aptitude for it. This is a part of that renaissance. And if you're going to try and tell me that we need to keep these programs alive, or else, the whole country's going to come to a screeching halt, first off, I say, go fuck yourself. Secondly, I say, even if that's the case, it's a chance we may have to take. At some point, these are chances we're going to have to take. If your goal is, and this is Elon, honestly, if the thought process is we're going to have to keep the corruption long enough to, as a stopgap until the technology reaches a place where, we can rely on the technology to solve our problems, then it's the same heresy that we've been facing in the West since the scientific method began. And it will be our downfall. There is no bridging the gap between man and God. And the people out there who don't believe in God, the people out there who fail to understand that, are going to be our demise. They will be, one way or another. It's been another episode of Please Call Me Crazy, brought to you by Free People Radio, powered by our favorite sponsor, TireGet.com. That's TireGet.com. You have to buy tires from somebody. When you do have to buy tires, buy them from us. You can visit freepeopleradio.com. We got merchandise on freepeopleradio.com. I always want to make sure that I mention that. We'll see you Wednesday. First reaction video on Wednesday. Maybe to be on topic here, we'll pull a bunch of tech videos, show you where people are really at, show you where this thing really is, show you people's comments about it. Maybe we'll start doing that. Maybe every Wednesday's reaction videos will be somewhat relative to the Monday deep dive topic. I'm sure that'll give us enough content to pick from anyway. On Friday, we plan to have a Hebrews again. Our Friday Hebrews episode this week will be the last Hebrews that airs on the Please Call Me Crazy YouTube channel. We're moving all Hebrews episodes to the Hebrews YouTube channel. You can find that YouTube.com/Hebrews, I believe. But if not, you can go to freepeopleradio.com, and then you can click Hebrews, the podcast, and that'll eventually bring you to the Hebrews YouTube channel, as well as Free People Radio, YouTube.com/Free People Radio. And that is going to be the new central hub for all of the podcast content across Free People Radio, as well as shorts, clips, and maybe other content as well. Maybe things that we just see in the news or in the headlines that we want to share with the audience. So Free People Radio YouTube channel, Hebrews YouTube channel coming to you this week. Make sure you look for that. We will move both channels into the featured channels portion of my YouTube channel or Professor Penn's YouTube channel. so that you have another easy place to go and find and access that. That's it for me. Glad to be back with you. We took a couple weeks off, the holiday, Christmas break, but I'm fired back up now. Oh, when I see the great Steve Bannon strap on his boots and throw down and go to war, we answered the call. We all answered the call. And understand this, we will never back down. We will never surrender. We've played against bigger bankrolls. I'm just telling you, don't make this mistake. There's not a bankroll big enough. We don't give a shit how much money you got, how much money you're worth. We are not going to live under a pay-to-play oligarchy any longer. We're going to talk about the issues. We're going to get the issues out on the table. We're going to sort through the first principles of the issues, and we're going to find out what it really means to be America first and what it really means to be a globalist. The fight continues. The people are coming. Godspeed.
Everything's up on the bar. We're all in. We get to decide. Do you want to live on your knees, or do you want to die on your feet fighting? That's the decision you get to make now.